Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode here of the Ashen Forge. How's it going, folks? Good to see you all. And we have a couple of our regular originals here. We got Phantom X and Diggs. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
Really
Yeah.
well, and it's crazy your backdrop, Neuro.
Yeah,
That's
it's the I gotta rework the green screen. I think I gotta adjust the lighting. Everything's all different. My entire configuration's completely different. Over
just
the
a
Well, over the past week, I got rid of my original desk that I had in here for like the past 10 years, and I basically put a shelf up with my monitors, and it's pretty awesome. It's just bolted to the wall,
cool.
and now I'm standing. So, but yeah, the Ashen
Yeah, this
Forge.
yeah, I'm happy. It's been a long time since
It
I've
has.
been on the thing here. Um, Burned by a game which we will not talk much about unless we have to.
Have we been? Well, we do have to because I see this as the
I'm,
successor of that game. But
I'm
burned
sure it'll
maybe
come
by
up.
a couple.
Some
Yeah,
here and
well,
there.
yeah. But
Okay.
we nonetheless moved to a new leaf, which is Ashes of Creation. So very excited. And I missed the video today. Is that what you were talking about earlier with sort of
Yes.
the successor? Yeah, I actually have not been able to watch that yet. But so I'm sure everyone who is watching this knows what we're talking about. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't be watching. But it's Ashes of Creation, new mmorpg being put out by Intrepid Studios, currently on Kickstarter. Um, Sorry, reading chat made me laugh.
Yeah.
I think, yeah, so I have it pulled up here, currently at 1.8 million in funding. So this thing's definitely going through.
In
And
2 weeks.
20
One
days
week.
ago.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
no.
so
It was how many is
they
ten
were,
days?
from what I remember from some of the videos, they were the fastest game to reach its target. Um, when that target is 500,000, they're the fastest to do that. I think it was like 16 hours or something. I'm happy to say I was the backer number three. I was on
Yeah.
that like refresh. Here we go. But anyways, we have a pretty awesome game. A lot of strong opinions already. Um,
And
so
so, speaking of maybe the game that shall not be named for a little while, um, I, you said you're excited, and I don't know if I can quite say that I'm excited because I can't get on the hype train. I'm looking forward to it being successful. I'm hopeful that it will actually release, um, but I don't quite have hype.
I've talked to a lot of people that was on that train before, and they all feel the exact same way. Actually, a lot of people aren't. I don't think are even doing Kickstarter because they're just worried. But from everything they've told us, they have the money internally to create the base game. This is all for the extras. So
I
I
hear
guess
that
that
all the time.
that takes an element of trust. Hey, they have gameplay video.
They have better video, but Revival had some gameplay video,
Right.
and Kingdoms of Amalur, they said they had the money too.
Right.
So I don't know, but
And that one vaporware game looked like it had gameplay, but then I don't know. I think it was actually the most closest to a gameplay we saw was they slapped assets from one thing into the other thing and made a PvP video of it using stuff the players had made. It's like, hey, look, this is the future. Yeah, that didn't quite pan out. But no, this actually looks like it's that they took the time to get close to a vertical slice before even getting started with this. And with that, I give mad respect. Any game that I do for a Kickstarter that's a lot of retro platformers and stuff like that are my sort of games. If they've got a demo that I can play, I'm almost immediately gonna buy in. Download the demo, I'll play it. If even what I get to play from that seems like it's got promise and like it'll be a good game, usually I'll throw down on it. So
so
they've at least proven a little bit so far, I think.
yeah, to me, I mean, and they even talked about the pillars of their game design in a similar fashion to the one we used to talk about. And so they've got PvP conflict. And I think in this, I consider that to be node to node conflict, which is going to be driving a lot of the game, and building and destruction, um, and how those two work together to create story is a design that I want to back, regardless of whether they actually release. I want people developing that design so we can eventually get that in our MMORPGs. So even if I end up not playing it, even if it ends up not coming out, I still want people working on that design because I think that's what we need. Um, I I want MMORPGs to be an actual EverQuest, and that's my problem. That's why I stopped playing, is because I hate the end game. I hate playing for a couple of weeks or a couple of months, and then I'm done. The
Yeah,
story's done,
once
and I
you've
have
done
to wait
everything
for
in a
the story.
static world, exactly. Like
Yeah,
that's kind of been a lot of the problem that we were interested in with revival is trying to resolve, and
right.
the game, which I don't know if we've quite named yet, that it was trying to resolve the idea
Well,
that it's trying to go beyond a static world, going into the next generation of what an MMO is, which is having a dynamic, evolving world. That the world itself is a character that evolves and changes just as everything else does. And to that extent, we see this. We see, I would say, Chronicles of Illyria looks like another candidate for this sort of thing. And there might be a couple other games that are mentioned here and there that are trying on a greater or lesser scale. Of course, Hero Song was going to try to do that too, and well, that that came and went pretty damn fast, is up and down in a year. Uh,
Let's start because there's a lot of talking points. They
hmm
with Kickstarter they have really unleashed just a tremendous amount of information. So obviously in an hour show we're not going to get to a lot of things that will come later. Um, what I think we can maybe start out with, or now that we've had time to kind of watch videos, read things, what are your guys's, what do you, I want to say hype, but what do you, when you look at what's there so far, what they plan, kind of what makes you excited, or what do you look forward to possibly being implemented? Um, Diggs?
I'll let uh,
Okay.
Euro start.
I mean, there's always those 8 documents. At least 4 of them probably are relevant, but having a crafting system that matters, like they were saying in one of the videos or one of the streams, that having the end product be of higher value than the materials that went into it, such that you don't buy a bunch of materials to grind skill to make items that you just take to the vendor because nobody wants them and they're useless. That's something that I'm really glad that they're trying to work out and resolve and do a good job with. On top of that, it sounds like they've got some plans for not only customization, being able to kind of push and pull some of the attributes a little bit, but also being able to mix and match and use higher quality materials, kind of like Star Wars Galaxies, or I think even Vanguard had, where you could use a higher tier of the same sort of thing to make a component, and the end result would be a better item. So if all that sort of stuff is going into it, that amount of time and effort and care, that items are actually meaningful, things that are crafted are what populate the stores and the vendors and things, because those are the quality items, then for me that's a huge success. That's a big thing. Just being able to have an economy that's better than early aughts RuneScape is something that I feel is sorely lacking these days. Eve is about the only game with a strong economy, and if you like things, ships in space, being a single unit of your own space RTS, then Eve is probably for you. If not, then maybe this will be a little more your speed.
I hope this pulls some things with Eve into it, but I'll get to that. Diggs?
To start on a positive, building and destruction is one of the things that I really love from the EverQuest Next design. That uh, Ashes of Creation also has. Saying that, I almost always want to say, and now it's not coming up. What was the other AO? It'll come to me in a second. It just had me in a. There's an old game, Asheron's Call. Asheron's Call. Every
Yes,
time
yes, yes.
I want to say Ashes of Creation, I have to
That's
stop
old.
myself from saying Asheron's Call. So one of the things that I was looking forward to, I like this concept of the players coming together and working together to build their home city, and it's out in the open world. I think if you take 3 months to build a city, you're going to be building community in that space. You're going to keep coming back to that space, and you're going to be working with a bunch of people at the same time every day, I think, building that space. And after 3 months, you're also going to want to protect that space together. And then the idea of destruction, that not only can your home area be destroyed, but you might go out and destroy other people's stuff depending on how the conflict works, which works into the PvP conflict aspect. What I loved about EverQuest Next, especially after that second year when we got more details about story bricks, is that's the first game design that flipped me from being a Care Bear, sometimes defender of PvP combat, into a full-on PvP asshole who doesn't care about whether the people I'm fighting are NPCs or player characters. So when they revealed the story of the Dark Elves going over to Kithakor Forest to siphon life magic from the Dryads, and they're going to take that back to their home in the Serpent Spine and transmute it into shadow energy, and the shadow energy powers stealth. I'm an explorer, so stealth is important to me. If I've got to kill some Dryads, steal their life magic to transmute that into shadow energy to power my stealth, I'm going to go over and kill some Dryads. And if some player characters are going to try and stop me from killing Dryads, they just going to have to die. And that is not a mentality that I normally have. So for 20 years of playing MMORPGs, I've been the Care Bear that doesn't like... I don't really even like killing mobs. I would not kill mobs if I didn't have to do that to level. I am kind of okay with defending cities in PvP for about 60 minutes, but I'm not really a PvP person. So to have a game design that's pushing me into saying, yeah, I can't wait to go over, kill some Dryads, and if y'all get in my way, y'all dead. I'm sorry. And that's the kind of conflict that I've been looking forward, that I see in Ashes of Creation, and I'm looking forward to doing that, although I only remembered a couple of days ago that I have this 60-minute time limit for PvP, and then I'm done. And if you try and engage me in PvP, that's usually what drives me off of PvP servers, is I get pushed into PvP after that 60-minute mark. While my PvP flag is still on, I'm waiting for the cooldown, and telling them, I'm done. I'm not in the mood for this. Leave me alone. And they don't leave me alone, so I end up leaving the PvP server so I can play in peace. So I'm thinking now maybe I might not be playing Asheron. See, I almost said it. I'm thinking I might not be playing Ashes of Creation, but I still want to back the development of that, because, again, I think that's where the genre needs to go.
Asheron's Call, such a similar game, you know?
Just the name.
I mean, I could see. You know, for me, it's actually kind of pulls from two things you guys said. One, mentioning Eve. One of the things that I find fascinating about Eve, I cannot play the game. I'm a high fantasy person. I can't get into space exploration and stuff like that. That just doesn't interest me. What interests me about Eve is that it is so player driven. Everything. The battles that they have, the stories that they create. I mean, you see people so involved. They're creating flyers, you know, for setting a war, and you see all these. I get PC Gamer, a subscription to that, and I can remember a few articles where they're just detailing the intrigue, the story, the player-driven conflict, and it's so cool to me. I just can't get into the game. And this Ashes of Creation seems to be so driven. They hope to make it so player-driven. They're going to add lore and stories, but so much of this, and the reason they have the PvP is to get players so involved, the community. I just hope to see the same sort of stories come out of this game as you see with Eve. Such conflict, such intrigue, and people banding together to take down the big metropolis, or just all these little things that can occur. That's, I think, the thing I look forward to the most, that they really are focusing on this being community. I think the first stream I watched of them, they mentioned, or some video I've watched, they just mentioned that so much of this is they want the community to come back, because they're all old school mmorpg players. That's what I look the most forward. I hope to see happen. I think that would be just really cool to be a part of that. I like how it's each server, they say, will be different. Each will have its own history. Those sorts of things really intrigue me. That we're not all playing the same storyline. Do quest A, B, C, get to level 50, go raid whatever dungeon. That just, to me, doesn't lead. It leads to sort of smaller stories. Like, you'll always remember your first big guild kill in World of Warcraft or something like that. But it's a small thing you kind of forget over time. It's the bigger story of the whole server that I hope we get involved in. So, unfortunately, that will require PvP.
So first pet peeve. It entails PvP conflict. Doesn't necessarily have to entail players killing other players. It can, but it doesn't have to. The big driving part is the conflict.
I suppose you can surround a city with war machines and massive forces, and be like, "Hey, check your protector relic. Oh, it's gone. Oh yeah, we did that. So you guys just walk out, and we won't destroy the city. We'll let you keep whatever you can carry on your backs, but we're taking it. We're not. Blood will be shed unless you make us." And I could definitely see things like that happening.
There's trade deals, there are political deals that can be made, and people have been saying, "Oh, within the city, nobody's going to get killed." But if there's political intrigue within the city, and there will be, because players can have government roles, and that gets decided how high the taxes are. They get to decide what types of buildings are built there. So I think there might be some stabs in the back and stuff within the city too. But the driving part, the really big driving part is what EverQuest Next calls the PvP conflict, and I'm calling that node versus node conflict for Ashes.
Yeah, I get that, and I get why. Obviously, I'm not a big PvPer, and I get why they want to do
combat.
This. Yeah, I get the reason, and they need that conflict to drive the story of the server. I understand that you can only have 5 metropolises at a time. Eventually, someone has to fall, so another. I get that. It has more meaning if the players drive it versus, hey, here's patch number 2. We're going to destroy this metropolis, and you can build a new one. There's just not as much meaning in that. For me personally, am I going to be a big PvPer? No. What would I imagine myself eventually doing is getting a freehold somewhere, and one of the things that I would love to be able to do in an MMORPG is just set up like an actual, almost like a Stardew Valley kind of farm, and work that into the economy, and that can be done. But my only thing is that there will be some level of PvP I will have to go through potentially, just due to the fact that you can't travel with so much. You have weight restrictions. You can only do so much without a caravan. That's my only thing, and that's where I was trying to get at earlier. Is I hope that because I could see PvP. The first time you lose your big caravan,
PvP combat.
Well,
Or
I mean,
PV.
just the interaction. I could see the first time someone, they spent a week growing something, they go to transport it somewhere, and then they get attacked and they lose. I mean, that could turn so many people off on that system. I hope that in turn the reward of the just how the overall server plays out and how the conflict plays out makes it rewarding to still have that risk. And that's what they say, risk versus reward.
See, for me, for me, if I were going to send my caravan, if I were going to send a caravan, my goods on a caravan, I'm prepared to lose that. I've set it up, I've scheduled it, I know in advance that I could lose it, and I will have some preparation at that time for if I lose it. So for me, because I've scheduled it, anything can happen. What I don't like is when I'm not in the mood for something and that something gets forced on me anyway. So the caravan, like I've started a caravan, that's part of it being a caravan. For PvP combat, I only like it for a certain amount of time. So when I'm done, I'm kind of done and I want it to be done. I've scheduled the time left to do something else. I don't want another player coming in and deciding for me that I have to do something that I don't want to do. That's my issue with PvP combat, is that other players can push me to do something I don't want to do when I don't want to do it.
I see. So if you've had your fill of PvP and you're sitting in the tavern trying to rest and
well, it's usually I'm trying to get back to someplace safe.
I see.
Not
so if you're in the tavern and you're just minding your business and you catch a fist to the face and bar fight's breaking out, you won't automatically log out. You'll actually kind of stay and tussle a little bit, even though you've had your.
You can't log out once PvP starts.
Well, right. I mean, like, just to leave and just be like, I'm done with this game. But that you would actually kind of stay and fight a little bit, or at least get to.
No, if I'm done, I'm done.
Okay.
That's the point. I'm trying to do something else, because I'm a casual gamer. So I have like a 60-minute, barrel of hardcore stuff that I want to do, and once that's depleted, I want to do some casual stuff. I don't want people pushing me back into doing hardcore stuff because I'm not really a hardcore player. I'm a casual player.
And you represent a lot of people. I mean, a lot of people think that way. I think a lot of people will come into this, maybe I have to deal with it every once in a while. But the reality is, the biggest games, they can play just PvE. And for what Ashes of Creation wants to do, this sort of conflict, it's going to require a lot of players. It's going to have to be successful in terms of the number of people playing for their systems to work, because it's relying on players. And so what I hope is that, again, that reward at the end of the day, say I lose a caravan, okay, it's there's still the reward of just I still want to keep playing. I mean, that's where I hope that balance gets right. I understand the need for the risk. I get that.
It would be like I've scheduled my caravan goes, my stuff gets taken, I'm like, okay, I expected that, I'm done. So I'll just do something else now, and all of a sudden, somehow, a player can force me to run another caravan and steal my stuff again. And I'm like, I didn't want to do another caravan.
Yeah, I mean, there will be control.
I had my fun during the first one. No, but I'm saying with the caravans, we have control. That's what I want in PvP combat. When I'm done and say, okay, I scheduled that. I knew this could happen. That's the risk. I'm done. I'm going to go do something else. I don't want to be forced back into a caravan run against myself.
See, because we are all human beings, we do pull. Humans in general are more risk averse than reward seeking. They don't want to lose what they already have. And I just wonder how that will translate into how people play this game. Mm-hmm. I mean, for me, like I said, largely probably be just exploring my own little region, try to make a farm or something. So really, where my concern comes in is just going to be in how do I sell what I have.
Yeah.
Other people like you, an explorer, you don't want to be out there exploring something new. Next thing you know, you're dead because somebody did something. If you're not wanting that conflict, but that will be there. And again, I understand why. I just time will tell, I guess, how it all plays out.
Yeah. But I like, for me, I like not even the big stuff, but the little stuff of I'm going out thinking that I'm just killing some dryads because I want this stuff, but killing the dryads is actually going to cause blight in the forest, and if we kill too many dryads, then there's too much life depletion, and that breaks the chains of the shadow demons come out, and then the dark elves and the druids have to work together to kill the shadow demons. All that stuff driving the story is what I'm looking forward to. The players are doing stuff, but they don't know how it's affecting, or they don't even know how it's negatively affecting the other regions.
Now, here's one of the things that it seems a little bit more like Ultima Online in terms of being as player-driven as possible. Sure, there's going to be, ancillary NPCs, but it seems like, by and large, the focus of the game is mostly player interaction, player-driven, player creation, player agency as the things that really move things forward, rather than it being mostly NPC-driven like we would see in a conventional MMO.
Not I mean, it's kind of both. So the player interaction is what's going to feed the nodes. The nodes are responding to what we're doing, and as they grow, they start sending out tasks and events and mobs and all kinds of stuff. So it's that interaction between players with the node. The node is creating story content for us as well. So it's kind of both.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say it's just if we just stuck around and did nothing, then the nodes would never grow. But because we are doing stuff, then the nodes will grow. And at some point, they might run into a stagnant story moment. But if we destroy the node and we start building new ones or rebuilding that one, different stories will come about. So
that's been one of my questions that I've not seen answered, is if each node has its own quest and its own sort of story behind it. Are you missing out on a chunk of stuff? Because they've said an NPC at one node might not appear somewhere else.
It might not even appear at that same node on different servers. So it really depends on what people are doing.
So my question becomes, okay, are you creating a lot of lore and a lot of stuff that people aren't going to see because there's only 5 metropolises available to do it?
Well, but it's not 5 nodes.
How does that get introduced? Well, you know what I mean, the big story. Yeah, I know within each one there'll be smaller. But my hope is it's like a perfect blend again of the Eve player created story with sort of the World of Warcraft lore that you uncover. It could potentially just be an incredible blend of.
Right, but it's not, because it's not just written lore so much. I mean, if certain types of so one of the things, so I was trying to think, somebody mentioned somebody had a question on the forums today, I think it was. No, it was in today's live stream for Ashes of Creation, which is every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 3 p.m. PST, I think. I guess that's 6 EST. Somebody
a lot of damn streams, by the way.
Yeah. And usually it's with a different interviewer, fan interviewer, so that's kind of cool too. Somebody asked, what do summoners summon? And when I was trying to relate that to how that might affect the nodes, I wonder if you have someone who's summoning demons versus someone who's summoning angels, how will that affect the kinds of mobs that the node in that region generates? So that's one of the ideas that I'm thinking about, of how what we do affects what the node generates for us. Mm-hmm. And so that could be different depending on what we do. It's not the same as just having a statically written story that everybody is going to experience the same.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I'm really interested in just seeing in general how they address, availability of flora and fauna, which ones outcompete other ones, if there's going to be like, this fight for equilibrium in nature that we're constantly disrupting. If seasons will actually affect availability and scarcity of things. That's all stuff for me that it's real cool to see because it's going to have lasting impacts. That time that everybody's starting to get into flavor of the month, deerskin hide or whatever, and then all the deer stop becoming available. Well, damn, that flavor of the month is gone. You got to switch to something else. Or likewise, that if it's something that you've hunted this and that a little bit too much. Now the wolves are just in abundance. They're growing. They're going rampant. They're getting bigger. They're getting more aggressive. That's definitely something I'm interested in seeing. Like, what things will happen in a zone of influence, and then what will happen that players can do to either try to resolve it, or if it's something that you can even try to resolve, or if you just have to kind of like pull back for a little bit and let nature take its course.
So another aspect that kind of has me laughing, it's another feature for Ashes of Creation talking about player-driven, is the monster tokens, where especially during events, I think it's only during events, you can use your monster token to inhabit one of the mobs that's attacking the city or attacking the monsters in the event. And I used to say, once the AI gets to a place that you can't tell a monster from a human player, I'm kind of done playing MMORPGs because, I have my threshold level of intelligence that I'm willing to deal with, which is not human level. Opponents are too hardcore for me to want to do for an extended amount of time. I like stuff that's more casual that I can kind of predict to some degree, or figure out how to predict by figuring out their patterns. Humans are too ruthless.
Somebody must have really liked Lord of the Rings with the inhabiting a monster's body.
Yeah.
Either that or played EverQuest back when Brad would run around.
Yeah, I mean,
I
thought
it's a novelty
that the way the Lord of the Rings approached it was really cool, and it's actually one of the things that I really would prefer to see a lot of games do, where the way they balance the stats for the PvE side of things makes it that when the players PvP with those same stats, everything is just completely out of balance and ridiculous. That instead, the only PvP that you would have in those sorts of games is where players would be fighting against like specially customized enemies that other players are playing. That seems a little bit more like two speed and two style, but of course this is not that sort of game. This is something where, yeah, everybody is going to be an intelligent player, but at the same time, I feel like while people are intelligent, there's also a high level of rates of failure among players. You do one thing that breaks somebody's pattern and rhythm, and they're suddenly flustered. They're not sure exactly what to do next. That was actually my main thing to do in World of Warcraft. Is a Tauren Shaman Engineer. So you couldn't do anything to me. I'd stun lock you. I'd mind control you. I'd counter your biggest spells. Your absolute biggest arcane or fire spell, I would just straight up reflect at you and you would kill yourself with it. I would literally take on 3 people at a time in the battlegrounds and usually come out winning. Because I was like a max raid tiered character with all the engineering stuff, I was perfectly geared for PvP. There was literally no better combination in my mind. So, yeah, it was a little ridiculous, but at the same time, as much as it was those 3 people coming and dying against this impenetrable freaking max raid tier dude, You know, I was that dude. I could go be a raid boss if I want. In fact, that was my favorite thing to do. Is I think Ashen Vale, I would just go and take the town over, be killing the NPCs and the guards until they send level 60s to come flush me out. Like that was just fun for me, and I think that's the you know, we're not going to see people being that powerful, and I think that level of like a discrepancy of power between the lowest and the highest in this. But you know, maybe there will be like a group of 5 people that can just run up into a town that doesn't have any other high level players and just take it over.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if the player characters can. I'm kind of wondering. I mean, the how much damage a monster event can be, and I'm wondering too about the level of tokens, and then, you know, will we start to recognize certain players for being, you know, the ultimate monster player. And that would be really crazy if we could if they would show us at some point who is running that. But yeah, I mean, there's lots of great stuff. It might be too hardcore for me, but you know,
So let
the
me ask you,
ideas should see fruition.
you know, with NPCs and sieges. Now, correct me if I'm wrong. The way I understand this, when a siege is declared, you have to take, I guess, wings of the metropolis or whatever. It'll be divided into areas, and you actually have to go in and kill an NPC to gain that area, and then that will move your spawn point. That will lengthen the respawn time of the player characters, if I remember this correct. But then they can also come into your siege if they go to where your encampment is and kill another NPC there. What you know, with this being player driven, I mean, what do you think about this mix of, well, you're not actually having to go into the metropolis and kill the ruler, the player, you have to kill an NPC. And
Yeah, well, so I mean, so there's a few things. One, if it's a siege on a metropolis, that's supposed to take months to complete. So just like it takes months to build the metropolis, it's supposed to take the same amount of time to destroy it completely. So how they accomplish that with guilds who are going to be trying to play 24/7 possibly, I don't know.
it feels a lot like battle. It's like some of the battlegrounds in World of Warcraft. I'm trying to think of which one it is. We actually have to go in and kill.
Ultra
I just-
Valley.
Yeah, that was one of them. There was another, but I saw that today, and I found it kind of interesting because so much emphasis is being put on the leadership of these. You know, they run the town or the metropolis, and how they are not one of the objectives. It's not like you're going in to try to capture the ruler or kill the ruler. And I'm sure that, like you just mentioned, these things will take forever, and that's probably why they don't want to make it so someone can just sneak in, you know, kill the king, and that's it. But
Yeah, he dies once and we can respawn, so it's not. I mean, I don't know how you do that.
That
But
always
yeah.
brings back the story of the guy who killed Lord British, and it was totally an exploit.
Yeah. But I'm hoping there's so much stuff for everybody to do. In any case, like, I don't mind if the objective is killing an NPC, as long as all kinds of different people have things to do. And I'm hoping we get to a place, and it sounds like we probably will be. One of the other things that I'm looking forward to, it's not the top thing that, you know, made me back it, but is bringing utility abilities and skills back in, so that my rogue can disarm traps and unlock doors. Those are actually the kinds of things that I liked to do when I was doing tabletop. Is, you know, I'm an explorer, so I'm the scout. I'm gonna, you know, find and disarm the traps. I'm gonna map the area. And I don't care about DPS. I will do that. But what I liked is all the utility stuff, and I missed it. Or, again, and I heard that did we unlock social progression? I think we did, or it's probably going to be unlocked. But if one of the things I miss in most MMORPGs is the ability to use charisma skills to bluff or diplomacy skills, things like that. I'm hoping to be able to do that with all of the classes will have those things, so that you're not just killing stuff during the siege.
It sounds like that's kind of the description for the bard, is they're not just an AoE buff debuff machine, but that they're also able to use their skills to express influence over other people, and make them like you, make them not want to destroy you, and instead maybe kind of help you out a little. So I don't know how that's actually going to work in a PvP role playing perspective. If it's like, I play a jaunty tune, and suddenly you don't quite feel like attacking me, and I type that in, and hope that they on the other side are like, I don't feel like attacking you as much anymore.
But I'm going to tell you the two like mind blowing, shocking moments of my MMORPG experience. The most terrifying that I've had was in EQ1, the first time somebody cast blind on me and my screen went blank. What just happened to my PC? And the first time someone cast fear, and I ended up, my character's running away, and I'm trying to get control of him again. And so fear, if there's things like that, or if you could make the character laugh uncontrollably, like there's stuff that you could do for periods of time. If it's when you're taking away player control, that can kind of only be for a limited amount of time, but there's stuff you can do there. But one of the things that I'm looking forward to, I hope, I've been waiting, almost 20 years for that, is to have tasks that require multiples of the same class to complete. Like maybe are traps that require 2 rogues to disarm those traps, or maybe there's a door that has an arcane lock on it and it requires 2 mages on different parts of the door to cast at the same time in order to open the door.
2 tanks to keep the gate open when you're trying to siege the place or whatever. I definitely I like that. I'd like to see more, and I know that was something they were trying to include into WoW with like the almost like a class-centric little guildy sort of things where you interface with people of that class regardless of what faction they're from, and like there were other interactions. I don't know the extent of it because I didn't play that stuff, but it sounded like they were trying to do something where it's like, doesn't matter who you're from, if you're a warrior, you hang out with your warriors here, you do warrior stuff. And, I would imagine for something like that to get, deployed on a quest or a mission where it's like, you and 3 warriors go and, fight this evil mad tree with axes made of this certain material or something, and, bring us great glory, and you'll probably get some good experience and loot from it.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about being able to add 2 classes together?
It's great.
I love it. And so that's the, I think that's their version of shallow vertical progression, but wide horizontal progression, because the secondary abilities aren't necessarily going to add more power, but they will help you do things in different ways, which is one of the things that I like. Variety of skill is as important to me as power, output.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's you're going to have some interesting combinations when you think about it. I really can't wait to get in and start testing stuff. I will be curious to see how they do the horizontal. I mean, what do you actually have to do in order to gain access to those skill combinations? But hopefully it's not just sort of grinding something. But it seems like a good mix of both elements. So
yeah.
And also, I think I read. What do you guys think about auto attack? It seems so odd to have a game where you don't have an auto attack. They're not going to have an auto attack, right?
I'm totally fine with that. I always hated auto attack because, for me, I hated the idea that what combat starts as is I get my circle next to your circle, and I've right clicked, and I make sure that the little icon is showing that I've right clicked, and that my character is beating on them in intervals. That to me, there's no tact, there's no strategy. I can't be like, wait, I'm gonna stop attacking for a moment and just block while somebody else attacks him from behind. There's none of that in an auto attack system. So I'm hoping that it's going to allow for more strategy and versatility overall. A little bit closer to DCOO, I think, is what I'd be looking for.
Yeah.
So I thought that Landmark did not have auto attack, did it?
It barely had combat to begin with.
I know, but I'm saying, but the combat that we had,
everything was on cooldowns. You had to click mash, and somewhere between where you shot and where you were aiming at the end of the shot, it's somewhere in there is where the projectile had actually got. It was bad.
Right. Well, I know, but I mean, I'm just saying that even the combat that we had was not.
Neuro mentions just
auto.
kind of what came to my mind where you're button mashing. Like, exactly how are they going to, if you don't have sort of an auto attack, is it just going to be a constant, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 1, 5, what exactly are we going to be doing? Because they're still using tab targeting, although they mentioned there's going to be elements positioning. I really hope that's not avoid the big red circle kind of positioning.
Right. Yeah, I mean, Neverwinter Online, I don't think they had auto attack either, and so my preference would be to not have it, I believe. And I have to say that I looked at Pantheon a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, so I looked at this Pantheon video, and I saw the people, like, they were walking around, they were on their way to someplace, and I was like, oh, that looks really cool. And the way they were like buffing each other, and they were preparing for battle, and I was like, oh, I really like the way that looks. And then they actually started fighting. Like, that's EQ1.
Well, yeah, it is.
I was like, what? What is that? Beefed up. It's like modern day graphics on top of EverQuest 1.
It's a reincarnation. I mean, that's
really?
they've not hid behind that fact.
I'm just saying. Wow.
Hey, now don't knock on Pantheon.
It wasn't interesting me before. That certainly didn't do it.
Well, I mean, I'll say in their defense, I don't know that they've got final art and everything. Now, okay, I'll give you this though. I'll give you this. If you give me a combat system where you unlock abilities that aren't necessarily any more powerful, it's just maybe the angle that you come in and come out and the actual animation, like the Batman Arkham games. Like, most of the attacks aren't really any more powerful, the ones you unlock. It's just that they look different, and they kind of come from different angles and give you, like, exit you in kind of a different position. I kind of like to see that kind of variation instead of an auto attack. Even if the button you're pressing is attack, that where your position, where their position, where a vulnerability appears to be based on what you're using and they're using, that you would attempt to make an intelligent strike rather than it just being the same canned. It's in the. I think Eskrima uses the numbering system, the number 1, the caveman strike, where you just the basic overhead smash. Like, if that's most of what the character's doing when they fight, that is boring. That is boring. Even if it looks more dynamic and maybe has different resolutions to, like, how things go with it. I'd really, it seems like it should be a small system to add at this point with where we're at with technology.
A lot of it's going to depend on exactly how much do they want it to be group based and how much do they want it to be single player based. So you have Pantheon. I mean, hear me out.
So keep going. Keep going.
So let's World of Warcraft. Almost everyone single plays it until you get into a dungeon or a raid or something. And because of that, they don't want extremely slow combat with a mob. So you kill stuff relatively quickly in order to keep going versus Pantheon, a la EverQuest, where you have a group of 5 or 6. Well, you equally, I think one of the reasons you have slower combat is because you don't want a group that's just knocking everything out like a Warcraft mob. I know you don't like the gameplay, but I
No, I'm saying I disagree because I played Neverwinter Online, and that was fast-paced action. Like, we could move around and stuff, which is what I want to do, and that wasn't us killing stuff quickly. Like, you just had to be on your toes and watch positioning and move positioning, and you know, it's a lot to think about and get out of the way. So,
well, I'll leave it at this: we chose to do an Ashes of Creation show and not a Pantheon show.
yeah,
So
Yes.
I think
no,
I think I'm the lone person out of this group that looks forward to that game. But
yeah, that's fine.
I haven't fully discounted. I actually joined them for a stream with the Who's Gaming Now crew a few months back, and it was nice. I appreciate their passion for what they're working on, and that definitely does speak volumes to me. If you're at least passionate about the game you make, it's got to be good, at least to some degree.
I mean, I personally look forward to it because I think it's going to pull a lot of heartstrings related to EverQuest. Whereas I hope Ashes of Creation actually kind of comes in and blends that nostalgia part, right, the community part, because that's what I remember from EverQuest. It's the people, but blends it with more of the update, just gameplay in general, the pace and everything else. So, I mean, I hope that Ashes of Creation is sort of in that middle ground.
Well, just getting back real quick to the secondary abilities. I mean, the example that they gave is the rush ability of the fighter, I think, being turned into a teleport. And for me, because what I really like and kind of hope in the storytelling aspects, especially now that we have Twitch and YouTube and people record their gameplay, if I'm recording gameplay of the fights, then yeah, I want my character, if he's a fighter mage, to be able to show that flavor in the fight of teleporting to do damage versus rushing in. I mean, that's almost more important to me than getting 10 extra points of damage that I can do.
Right. I get you. And yeah, from the sound of it, it's that you have your primary class's abilities, and then the secondary classes, not so much that you get their abilities, so much as they have an augmenting influence on the abilities you already have. Maybe I'm mistaken about that. But,
That's right. That's right.
Okay, so that's, to me, that really makes the multi-classing, the dual classing side of things a little bit more interesting, because it's not that you're having 64 classes so much as that you have 8 variations of 8 classes. So to that extent, someone who starts as a tank base, there's certain things you can expect from them, but then depending on the secondary class that they've picked, that's where that kind of X factor, how they play, how they arm themselves, who they play with, and how their style works. It's up to them to find what's going to be the best solution. And I don't know how much you're able to kind of switch your primary and your secondary. It seems like the sort of thing where people are, maybe going to be rolling alt or, kind of messing around a little. In fact, that's actually something that I haven't really noticed. Is there a longevity life-death system? Are characters going to be turning over?
I have not heard anything about that.
Because that's kind of the
They've
tough
not
thing,
mentioned that.
is the idea that you don't have characters that expire, but there's so many things to do that it almost gets into this fear of missing out. It's like, I want to be the most badass I can of the first character I started from day one and keep continuing to play, but I also want to play all these other classes and try all these other things. There will be a way to change your second class combo? Okay, cool. So
yeah.
You can change the
Well, they've said you can change.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, yeah, I see what you're saying.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
They've not said how, but they've said it'll be possible. Okay. Yeah, I think the only game you're going to get with aging at this point is Chronicles of
Illyria.
Yeah.
Yep. And it was what they were also going to do with Revival, which it's not going to be revival if they ever do make a Telestin MMO, but it may happen at some point. I see. Let's see how things are looking in 10 years.
Sure, people will have alts. With two classes, I don't know how many people start min maxing, and is it going to be why are you a mage and a warrior? That doesn't again getting into how well I don't know that kind of I think is a negative part of like World of Warcraft is the expectation that you have to do something a certain way. So we are actually at 9 o'clock. I think 9 o'clock my time.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
we have plan on doing these only for about an hour at a time now. So we're kind of at the end. Unless is there anything final y'all want to talk about today?
no, that pretty well covers. It was just kind of just getting it in there and starting to get some
Yeah.
initial thoughts out. I'm sure as we go into the episodes in the coming weeks here, we will be coming in with actual subjects and topics instead of just kind of freeballing it. But just feeling it out. First episode. That's a good way to start things off here and introduce everybody who hasn't met us before to kind of our style and how we talk and how we do things. And likewise.
So wait,
what you
Cloak
got?
just came into chat. He's the one who designed our overlay. So hey, Cloaked, thank you.
How's it
We're
going,
here.
Chloe? Thanks.
Yes, thank you. We plan on doing this every 2 weeks. We'll see how that goes. Obviously, if it changes to every week or we throw one here or there, we'll let everyone know on social media. But it's an odd time right now because there's so much information. But I'm sure after Kickstarter ends, we're going to have a slowdown of information. So us trying to figure out exactly how to time this, we're still currently planning on every 2 weeks. So, yeah. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. That's sort of, I think, a good start. We have a lot to talk about, and I have a feeling it's, even though I worry we're going to run out of stuff, we will probably actually not, because I don't think we'll run out of words. 9 o'clock came pretty quick. So
Yes. All right. Well, that'll be it then. Till next time. See you later, everybody.
Yep.